Cinderella sold 15 million records. Their debut album hit number 3 on the Billboard charts. They toured arenas with Bon Jovi and David Lee Roth. And then, in the middle of what should have been their greatest triumph, their frontman woke up one morning and his voice was gone. Not tired, not strained, gone. This is the story of a band that clawed its way out of nothing, reached the absolute peak of rock and roll, and then watched it all collapse because of a single tour. To understand what Cinderella lost, you have to understand where they came from. And where they came from was nowhere. Tom Keifer was born on January 26, 1961, and grew up in Springfield, Pennsylvania, just outside Philadelphia. He came from a musical family and picked up the guitar young, but it wasn't the flashy stuff that grabbed him. It was the blues. That raw, gritty, emotionally honest sound sank into his bones early and never left. That influence would later set Cinderella apart from every band they'd ever be compared to. But in the beginning, he was just a kid with a guitar and a dream he couldn't afford. Before Cinderella, Keifer spent years grinding through the East Coast bar circuit in cover bands. And when I say grinding, the man was sleeping in his Plymouth Duster, eating boxed grits, and at one point stealing corn from a field just to have something in his stomach. That's not rock and roll mythology, that's desperation. That's a guy who had every reason to quit and didn't. His mother, Adrienne, saw the writing on the wall early. She knew her son was going to chase music whether he finished school or not, so she made him a deal, a bribe really. Graduate, and she'd buy him a Gibson Les Paul. Keifer graduated, he got the guitar, and that instrument became a weapon. In 1983, Keifer and bassist Eric Brittingham formed Cinderella in Clifton Heights, Pennsylvania. The name came from a pornographic film title they spotted in an HBO guide, chosen deliberately and ironically to contrast their heavy rock sound against the more theatrical glam acts dominating the scene. The original lineup included guitarist Michael Shermick and drummer Tony Destra, but by 1985, both had left to form Britny Fox, another Philly glam metal band. During those early days, Keifer and Brittingham held down day jobs delivering film to developing outlets, then rehearsed and played gigs at night. They knew the Philly and South Jersey bar scene was a dead end, so they started writing original material, building a repertoire song by song until they eventually became the house band at a bar called The Galaxy in South Jersey. Not glamorous, but it was forward motion. And then came the break that changed everything. Gene Simmons of Kiss saw Cinderella and tried to get them signed. It didn't work, but in 1985, Jon Bon Jovi walked into the Empire Rock Club in Philadelphia and watched Tom Keifer perform. Years later, Bon Jovi described exactly what he saw that night. "I saw Tommy Keifer on stage delivering some pretty nifty growling vocals. Then he whipped out this Les Paul and proceeded to lay into some astounding sounds. This guy struck me as a star right then and there." Bon Jovi went straight to his A&R man at Mercury Records, Derek Shulman, and told him he had to see this band. Shulman wasn't immediately convinced and wanted to offer a cautious 6-month development deal, but after extensive negotiations, he signed Cinderella to a full record deal. Jeff LaBar had joined on guitar and Fred Corey on drums, locking in the classic lineup. The pieces were in place. On June 9, 1986, Cinderella released their debut album, Night Songs, and the world responded. The album was a powerhouse. The lead-off single, Shake Me, didn't chart, which could have been a death sentence for a debut band. But Mercury Records kept pushing. The second single, Nobody's Fool, cracked the top 20. Reaching number 13. A third single, Somebody Save Me, hit number 66. More importantly, Night Songs as an album climbed all the way to number 3 on the Billboard charts, selling 50 to 60,000 copies a week at its peak. It was eventually certified triple platinum, shipping 3 million copies in the United States alone. Cinderella wasn't just successful. They were a phenomenon. Their first tour in 1986 put them on the road, opening for Japanese heavy metal band Loudness. But the escalation was rapid. By 1987, they were playing arenas, spending 5 months opening for David Lee Roth, and then 7 months with Bon Jovi on the Slippery When Wet tour. The guy who discovered them in a Philadelphia club was now bringing them along on one of the biggest tours in rock history. Tom Keifer's first wife Emily, whom he married in 1987, designed the band's iconic logo and often traveled with him on tour. Everything was clicking, the music, the imagery, the momentum. Cinderella was firing on all cylinders, and here's what made them different. While the press and the public lumped them in with the hair metal explosion, Cinderella carried more substance than most of their peers. Music journalist Jeff Mizidlo later noted that although the band looked the part of hair rockers, its overall sound seemed to have more meat than other bands of the era. VH1 would eventually call them Philadelphia's most illustrious contribution to glam. But it was Keifer's blues roots that gave them a depth that separated them from the pack. That depth became undeniable on their second album. Long Cold Winter, released in 1988, was a creative leap forward, bluesier, more ambitious, more textured. The centerpiece was Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone, a piano-driven power ballad that became Cinderella's highest-charting single, reaching number 12. The song carried a fascinating secret that most fans never knew. Those drum parts weren't played by Fred Coury. They were played by Cozy Powell, the legendary session drummer, because producer Andy Johns considered Coury a little inexperienced for that specific groove and drive. On tour, the song became a spectacle. Keifer would be lowered onto the stage while playing a white piano, delivering those soaring vocals to arena crowds night after night. Theatrical, emotional, and absolutely massive. Long Cold Winter sold over 3.25 million copies, making it Cinderella's best-selling album. But here's one of those maddening paradoxes of the music industry. It was a better album than Night Songs, and yet it sold fewer copies than the debut. Critical acclaim climbed, commercial numbers slipped, a puzzling trend that would follow the band across their entire career. The tour to support Long Cold Winter was enormous. 254 shows over 14 months. Think about that number. 254 shows night after night, city after city for over a year. In August of 1989, they played the Moscow Music Peace Festival on the same stage as some of the biggest names in rock. Cinderella had reached the absolute top. Then came Heartbreak Station in 1990. The album pushed even further into blues and roots rock territory, pulling away from the glam metal sound that had made them famous. The single Shelter Me hit number 36, and the title track reached number 44. Just a little helper. The album peaked at number 19 and went platinum. Respectable numbers, but the trajectory was clear. Each album sold less than the one before, even as the music improved. The market was shifting, grunge was stirring in Seattle. The hair metal era had an expiration date, and the clock was ticking. But none of that is what killed Cinderella. What killed Cinderella happened on the Heartbreak Station Tour. Keifer described it simply and devastatingly. We were on our third album and probably at the peak of our career, at the point on Heartbreak Station, on tour, and my voice disappeared overnight. He elaborated in later interviews. Back in '91, when I was on tour with Cinderella, I woke up one day with my voice cracking and breaking. It was literally overnight. Up till then, I had no problems. I just jumped on stage and sang, with no warm-ups or anything. We did 5-6 nights a week, several tours like that, and I was always fine. One morning, that's all it took. The diagnosis was a nightmare. A paresis, a partial paralysis of his left vocal cord, caused by a virus that had settled into the nerve. A doctor looked him in the eye and delivered the words no singer ever wants to hear. You've suffered a paresis, which is a partial paralysis of your left vocal cord. You're never singing again. There's no surgical fix. There's no pill you can take. Keifer later reflected on the full weight of it. I went through hell, and I battled for a very long time. I was diagnosed with vocal cord paralysis in the early 90s, and I was told I'd never sing again because there wasn't any medical cure for it. I was told the only chance I had would be by retraining my voice using a speech pathologist and vocal trainers. For a man who had spent his entire life building toward this moment, who had slept in his car and eaten stolen corn just to keep the dream alive, the idea that a virus could take it all away was almost incomprehensible. Depression hit hard. The band's momentum evaporated. The silence was deafening. Still Climbing was released in 1994, but by then the damage was done. The album arrived to little fanfare. The grunge revolution had completely reshaped the musical landscape. Mercury Records dropped the band. In 1995, Cinderella officially broke up, but Tom Keifer refused to accept the verdict. He found vocal coach Ron Anderson and began the excruciating process of retraining his voice from scratch. Learning to sing again with a partially paralyzed vocal cord isn't like recovering from a broken bone. There's no cast, no timeline, no guarantee. Keifer underwent 6 surgeries on his vocal cords over the years, battled depression, and spent a decade in Nashville recording what would eventually become his solo album, The Way Life Goes. Through all of it, his philosophy stayed brutally simple: just don't stop, you just keep going. Cinderella reunited in 1996 and toured sporadically over the following years, but the band was never the same. Sony dropped them in 2000. They did a 20th anniversary tour with Poison in 2006. In 2008, a tour had to be cancelled when Keifer suffered a vocal cord hemorrhage. The voice was always the fault line, always threatening to give way. By 2012, the internal issues that had been simmering for decades finally boiled over. Keifer described it plainly: "There have been some issues with Cinderella within the ranks of Cinderella for years now, going back decades. They came to a head in 2012. We took some pretty extreme measures to right the ship and fix things, and we made a pact as a band in 2012 that we would not do anything as a band until the issues were resolved. The issues were never resolved." Jeff LeBar, the guitarist who had been with the band since 1985, was carrying his own demons, and he was honest about it in a way that was almost painfully forthcoming. "I have a history of drinking and cocaine. In the 80s it was cocaine abuse, in the 90s it was heroin. I went through every cliche phase that a rock star could go through. It just wasn't highly publicized. I was arrested, I went through rehab, I did all the things Motley Crue did. I just didn't publicize it. I was Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses all wrapped into one. As a band, we tried to hide our dirty laundry, and most of our dirty laundry was me." LeBar also accepted responsibility for the final fracture. "I can only speculate, but I believe it's all my fault. It's no secret that I've had a drinking problem. And it showed its ugly face on one of those cruises that Cinderella played. When I fell out on one of those cruise ships in front of everybody, basically OD'd, that's when the band, and mostly Tom, took notice." In 2014, Cinderella played their final performances on the Monsters of Rock cruise. By 2017, Keifer made it official: "I'm pleased where I'm at now. There's been a lot of issues over the course of decades and built up that is beyond repair at this point. So there won't be any reunion." And then, on July 14, 2021, came the news that sealed it forever. Jeff LeBar was found dead in Nashville at the age of 58, the cause being complications from substance abuse. On that very same day, longtime Cinderella touring keyboardist Gary Corbett also died from lung cancer. 2 members of the Cinderella family, gone on the same day. The symmetry was cruel, but here's what keeps this story from being just another cautionary tale of rock and roll excess and bad luck. Tom Keifer is still singing. The man who was told in 1991 that he would never sing again is currently announcing 2026 tour dates. He now spends an hour to an hour and 15 minutes on vocal warm-ups before every show, a ritual built entirely from years of speech pathology and retraining. And he says something that, given everything he's been through, borders on miraculous. "I've learned so much from training that I think I'm a better singer and stronger than I was before the problem." Think about what that means. A virus attacked his vocal cord on the Heartbreak Station Tour in 1991. He was told his career was over. He spent more than 3 decades fighting that diagnosis, undergoing 6 surgeries, battling depression, losing his band, losing his guitarist, and he came out the other side claiming he's better than he was before. Cinderella sold 15 million records. They had the songs, the talent, the blues authenticity that most of their peers couldn't touch, and they were poised to be one of the enduring bands of their generation. One tour, one morning on one tour, took all of that away. But it didn't take Tom Keifer. He's still out there, warming up for an hour before every show, playing the Gibson Les Paul his mother bribed him into earning, proving every night that the doctor who told him he'd never sing again was wrong. The fairy tale didn't end the way anyone expected. The clock struck midnight, and Cinderella lost everything. But the voice that built it all, cracked and retrained and scarred and defiant, that voice never stopped.